Last time I talked about how Rocks and Shoals was an episode that wasn't necessary for the war arc, but contributed a great deal to the emotion of it. Sons and Daughters, likewise, isn't really necessary either. Unlike Rocks and Shoals, it adds little. Besides that, both episodes have another thing in common. They were in many ways Mark II versions of Season 5 episodes, The Ship and Soldiers of the Empire. Sure, they were different in many ways. The Ship and Rocks and Shoals both took place on a barren planet with Jem'Hadar, but rather than the Vorta lying to Sisko, the Vorta was lying to his own men. Likewise, Soldiers of the Empire and Sons and Daughters were about life on a Klingon ship and someone who wasn't necessarily ready to be there. But while Rocks and Shoals had its new take be fresh, complete with a new multifaceted character, Sons and Daughters felt like a hollow echo of a bold experiment. The episode picks up on Martok's ship, which picked up the signal from Keevan's transmitter and is now transporting our heroes back to the starbase they've been working out of. And Sisko and Martok place bets on which of the two will be the first to set foot on Deep Space Nine. Then it's off to below decks for the cockfights. Sisko's got 2 bars of latinum on the steely one-eyed rooster named Kalis Cockblocker that's really good with its tiny batleth. Bradley Thompson and David Weddle joined the writing staff this season, although they'd done a little work for the show in the past. And one thing that goes without saying is that writing Klingons well is very hard. Writing them is easy. Writing them so they're interesting, less so. Luckily, Worf and Martok are 2 solid, very different characters, and so can carry things to a degree. But still, they can only work with what they're given. This episode, a lot of what Martok is, well, let me be frank, he transforms into General Obvious for some reason. Half the time he says stuff where you're like, wow, no shit, General.
War is much more fun when you're winning.
Well, let's get down to adding the new replacements. Would you look at this load of batag? I give them 4 days before they kill themselves trying to polish their boots. Still, one stands out as being lamer than the rest.
Of what house is Roshenko?
Of no house, sir. My honor will be my own.
Just please don't hit me or do anything to upset my allergies. And to make matters worse, this quivering mass of feebleness whose voice is barely broken is Alexander, Worf's son. Back on DS9, Kira's already at work with Odo on setting up a resistance cell, which Jake wants to join. But everyone's leery about that since, he's been known to print stories with things you don't want known and wasn't naive enough to actually think a soulless police state would allow freedom of the press. The last thing they need is him trying to put out a story revealing details of their efforts to undermine the most powerful force in the quadrant because of some misguided belief in journalism. Hey, don't misunderstand, I'm all for freedom of the press. I'm in favor of good drummers too, but I wouldn't want him bringing his work into my secret hiding place either. Kira's day gets worse because, to show how petty Dukat has now become, he requires her to meet him at the airlock every time he comes back to the station.
You're out of uniform, Major.
You're supposed to greet him in the new official Bajoran uniform. 2 tassels and a pair of bikini bottoms with "Occupied by Cardassia" printed on them. Turns out Dukat's arrived with the daughter's portion of the title, Zial, who ropes Kira into dinner with her and the man Kira's working to overthrow. That's going to be kind of awkward. Please pass the salt, you murdering fascist. Glad to help you, you crinkle-nosed uptight bitch. So, what's on today's agenda? Murdering babies or just fathering illegitimate ones? No offense, Zial. Can we not do this? Major, is it true that you're so frigid that First Minister Shakar's penis now has 12 words for snow? When you go around on your rape sprees, are you worried that you've sired so many bastards you may accidentally be plowing one of them? Or are you happy that you're finally doing something with your abandoned children? Again, no offense, Zial. Would anyone like to see my sketches? I bet your father would like to see her. Please pass the salt back, you filthy shrew. Why don't you come over here and just take it and claim that it was for the good of the Bajoran people? Same time tomorrow? I look forward to it. So Kira tells Zial she's not coming to dinner and wants to know why she came back here. Why she's still defending her father, for that matter.
He left you here to die. We talked about that. He admits he overreacted.
You know, that time when I nearly had you killed for defying me, I admit some small blame in that. But Zial finally manages to talk Kira into coming anyway. Oh boy. Back at the Rotara, and Martok's confused by Worf not mentioning he had a son after all they'd been through. And Worf admits things were difficult because Alexander never appreciated the warrior's way of life.
When a father and son do not speak, it means there's trouble between them.
Another pearl of wisdom from General Obvious. It means there's trouble between them, or one has his mouth full, or that they're both sleeping. Think about what I said, Worf. Of course, General. Very wise words. You are like the Klingon Yoda. Worf tries talking to Alexander, but it doesn't go well. It's also confusing, as we always knew that Alexander had no interest in this stuff, and there's no real reason given for changing his mind. Plus, Worf never was terribly good at the whole father thing.
Stop pretending to be a warrior.
Ouch, even I felt that one. But the hard fact is, it's true. We see Alexander getting his food, and let me tell you, if this were a prison, they would have already traded him for smokes by now. He is out of his element. This guy starts making fun of him, to the point where Amish people are saying, "Hey, English, stand up for yourself for Christ's sakes." Eventually he does, and it turns into a knife fight, and he pretty much sucks at that too, managing one cut, and really only because his opponent's been toying with him. Worf finally has to break it up before Alexander really gets hurt, but naturally Alexander resents it. It's interfering with his efforts to prove what a complete wiener he is to the whole Empire. Martok's not too happy about Worf's behavior.
You heard about the fight in the mess hall.
Yes, but not from my first officer. I lost him the moment his son stepped aboard this ship.
Ow, now it's Worf's turn to take one. But Martok's point is that Alexander will never become a warrior if Worf keeps trying to protect him. Of course, everything says that Alexander will never become a warrior, ever, unless they redefine warrior very broadly, things like guys who cower and wet themselves. Things get even worse as an alert sounds, and we discover that Alexander's at sensors, reporting on the state of things, that there's a warship out there. There's some tense combat maneuvers and what must be a cloaked Jem'Hadar ship or something, and they brace for torpedoes that they just can't seem to evade, and they brace, until Worf figures out that Alexander forgot to clear the simulation out of the system when he took over. Oops. Forget about being a warrior. Alexander doesn't seem qualified to get a flippin' office job if he can't operate a computer without screwing it up. During all this, Kira and Dukat have been having an odd relationship brewing. Especially odd given last time, the whole evil must be opposed kind of thing. The thing that motivated her to fight the Dominion and the Cardassians. She and Dukat are both very supportive of Ziyal, and that draws them together. But Dukat's desire to conquer the Alpha Quadrant and battle against the emissary of the Prophets is a bit of a downer. The breaking point is when he sends Kira a dress for the party, which she likes, and thus reminds her how much she hates Dukat. Dukat, however, tries to leverage Ziyal to get her to change her mind, but she's not taking that anymore and storms off. Still, you don't get to become an evil dictator without knowing how to turn lemons into lemonade.
Who was that?
Delivery. It's a little something for you to wear to the party tonight.
Back on the Rotaran, Worf tries in vain to help Alexander learn to fight Jem'Hadar. Yeah. Worf, I'm sorry, but the only way Alexander's killing Jem'Hadar in close quarters combat is if he's wearing a suicide vest. And even then, he might hit the wrong button and unlock his car or something. This is unbelievable. You are the worst fighter on this ship. No, I'm not. You lost to everyone, including Kayla's cockblocker. Well, he's one highly skilled chicken. It was an honor losing to him.
What is wrong with you?
Damn, Worf. I know the kid's crap, but geez, cut him some slack. Sure, he's bad, but not so bad that... Well, the overall point remains, which is that no matter what... Oh, for God's sakes. Worf, shoot him now, in the head. It's the kind thing to do. Alexander, let me ask you a very pointed question. Besides the ability to turn oxygen into carbon dioxide, what do you bring to this ship that a large sandbag would not? I mean, you can't use these weapons. You can't operate the controls. What exactly is it that you expect to be able to do here? I mean, so far all you've done is manage to piss people off, screw things up, and nearly get yourself killed. I swear to God, you are like the only person we've met that makes Neelix look overqualified.
Fine blade, well balanced. But in the end, it's only as good as the warrior who wields it.
You know, Alexander, if you ever find that your zipper is digging into your ass, it means your pants are on backwards. Think about what I've said. Now, don't misunderstand me. I do like Martok. I think he's probably the most realistic Klingon guest star that we've ever seen, and is imbued with a sense of authority and warrior's pride that makes him an ideal against which other Klingons should be measured, an excellent counterpoint to Worf. He has the feel of a seasoned man who knows the difference between the stated ideals and the ways that Klingons will actually act that strays far from it. So when Hertzler acts against the young actor, he crushes him under the weight of his performance. Martok tells him that Worf wants him transferred, so Alexander tries challenging Worf to a battle to the death, but just gets a look like he was caught trying to have sex with a tree. It's implied that Alexander's only here in the hopes of pleasing his father, so, nice plan. There's an attack on the convoy they're escorting, so the usual battle stuff happens, and when Alexander's station gets blown up, he goes to fix a leak while everyone else sorts out the Jemadar. When it's over and Worf checks on him, we discover that Alexander accidentally locked himself in this room and has to be rescued. If you'd think by now that Alexander would have gotten the message that he really doesn't belong here, well, think again. Instead, there's a ritual to induct him into the house of Martok with his father, who had been ushered in during the aforementioned Soldiers of the Empire. Anyway, let's just get out of here. The post-episode follow-up. Annoying character goes to Alexander. He's like Anakin Skywalker minus any actual abilities. Final score for Sons and Daughters is 3 out of 10, and I know that may seem harsh, but really the episode is, at the best of times, fairly average, and often dips down into embarrassing territory. It manages to turn the still relatively new experience of life on a Klingon ship into something mundane, with one-dimensional characters and a boring story about Worf and his son that just won't go anywhere. Aside of an appearance at Worf's wedding, we never see Alexander again. Not that I'm complaining about that. The Kira-Dukat subplot is mostly there for one last grasp for Dukat to try to get Kira to like him, and it was honestly surprising it took as long as it did for her to finally put her foot down. For the most part, the two are now parting ways as we go into the final 3 chapters of the arc, continuing in next week's Behind the Lines.